Hey there, V2X Nation and friends. This is Hope Skibitsky, the Learning and Development Manager at V2X. And you're with us here on Converging on Leadership, the place where we use transparency, vulnerability, and lessons learned to develop ties with our leadership to help us better serve all of our internal and external customers.
Hey podcasters, can you picture yourself with a challenging, rewarding career as a commercial and defense contractor? Maybe you're already working for V2X and would like to expand your horizons with a new opportunity, or you're interested in getting started with us. V2X is here for you. We have a wide array of job openings, some for those who want to support the United States military warfighters, and for those of you who are interested in the ultra-secure world for one of our country's three-letter agencies. We pride ourselves in developing our employees for future opportunities. Did we mention we have locations and positions all across the globe? If you are interested in a rewarding profession that pays well with competitive benefits, check out our website at gov2x.com/careers.
Welcome back. We're glad to see you again. And today we're here with Cori Minton-Package. She happens to be our Senior Vice President in charge of Advanced Technology. So that's a huge title. Tell us a little bit about that.
I lead the technology business unit for V2X, and we're responsible for helping our customers build new technical things.
I love it. So, I am very new to the company, and I'm also incredibly new to understanding how the parts of our company work and what everybody does. What do you do to help keep all of the things, and I believe there are things that are newly aligned under you, connected? How do you keep them understanding what's going on within the company? Do you have like daily meetings, weekly meetings? Do you do text messages, smoke signals? How do you keep your people connected?
Yeah, all of those things. So the first thing that I'll kind of point out in those big integration moments, because we're going through an integration right now. So our organization is coming together, and depending on how far back in history you want to go, 3 organizations are coming together. So I think the first thing that you have to call out is that you have to be intentional. So these things don't happen by themselves, because a big part of what we're doing is nudging people to work together who haven't worked together and who maybe don't know each other. And so I think that starts with people understanding that they are there to help each other and, keeping their judo hands down. Right? And understanding that we're all working toward the same goal. And then the form factor gets easier, right? So we do have a couple things that force people or allow people to engage together. I host a monthly all-hands call with my 1,000 team members, and we talk about some of the good news. We introduce all the new people who are joining the team. We acknowledge milestones in people's years of service. We call out, either opportunities that we've won or things that we're bringing to market for the first time. So we use that as an opportunity to get people engaged and talking. And I think I used to think that you could have a few town halls or brown bag sessions, and you could teach people about things they didn't already know about, and then declare victory, plant a flag, and move on. But that work's never done. So the minute that you've finished it, even if you've recorded it and made it electronically available for everybody, new people join, right? Or some new team is formed, or some new contract is won, and suddenly you have a whole new group that need to understand that. So I think it's work that never finishes. Now, we do try to make it easy and possible for folks, because I've got people all over the world, and so do my other 2 colleagues. So we've got, teams working around the clock and in every time zone and every location to support our customers. And so you've got to find, tools like Yammer and Teams and recorded versions that make things possible for people to stay up to speed. But I'll say, I say this as we're going through our own employee engagement survey. There's a second half in my mind of some of these conversations about learning how things work. And that's really that individuals also have a role to play, right? So like every relationship, we can make a lot of information available and create forums for people to share. But everybody has to take ownership of the way that they engage and participate in those things.
That's right.
So that matters too, right? You have to lean in. You have to
It's like
make
that
an
thing
effort.
you've always heard, you can lead a horse to water, right? You can give them everything, but if they're not making use of it or not doing something with it once you give it,
Sure.
then
Sure.
what?
And sometimes what that tells us is we've picked the wrong form factor. So there's nothing wrong with trying something, realizing it hasn't worked, and continuing to try. For a while we were doing a lot of in-person meetings at different facilities. And I think those in-person meetings help people get to know each other on a personal level, understand the capabilities as you would see them attached to a location, which is great in an engineering context. That's incredibly important. But I think after people have done that a few times, right, that gets to be painful, and people aren't sleeping in their own beds when they could be, and you're doing unnatural things. So, I think we're trying to continue to evolve ways that provide a technology answer for people to collaborate with each other, as well as a kind of in-person, lean-in, one-on-one relationships also help solve problems, right?
No, I think it's a good mention, because some people think that out of sight is out of mind, or that it always has to be in person, where there really can be connectivity at a distance.
There have to be,
That's right.
There have to be. We're in too many locations, and I feel like if we learned anything from the pandemic, it's that people don't have to be in the same location to get work done.
I like that. And I like that you're thinking differently. And so on the thread of thinking differently, one of the reasons why I had hoped we would sit down today is because of all the things that fall under you. Is kind of the first place my brain goes is, well, what's next? And a lot of stuff that when people think next, they think innovation. And so in the world of innovation, you and I discussed it, and you said, well, let's talk about bringing innovation to the customer. And so help me, though, untangle some of the necklaces, per se, of innovation versus invention versus modernization. Like, how do you cull those things out and get to actual innovation?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I didn't bring my dictionary, so I won't get the definitions of these terms perfect. But the way that I think of invention is really first-of-a-kind things, right? Is it happening for the very first time? And doing that with a customer that you have a great trusted relationship with, where you have an adjacency that you can leverage, some experience that you can bring to that, is helpful and interesting. But it's honestly not where we spend most of our time. We aren't inventing a lot of first-of-a-kind activities. And, those kinds of things tend to happen in university labs or, other big lab organizations. We're really leaning in on the innovation side. So sometimes we're helping our customers with their modernization approach, especially in the tech space. Almost all of our customers have a tech roadmap of things that they would like to do, but either are constrained by their own business model, their own funding issues. And I think all of us have the experience of holding incredibly powerful technical tools in our hands with our phones. Right? So
Absolutely.
we all have the user experience now that we expect in our personal lives that we bring into our work lives. And yet most of our work tools for cybersecurity or, like I said, business model and funding issues or just time lags may not have caught up to what we experience in our personal lives. So we spend a lot of time trying to help our customers through those hurdles and support them on their roadmaps. So they are modernizing things, in many cases, bringing old gear into this century, right? Or sustaining and extending life of that old gear. Because often what you need to do with our federal segment of the business is focus your energy and attention on, the adversaries or the areas of activity where you need more dollars to flow. And to do that, you have to support and extend the life of other things without throwing more energy and attention to them. So I think that's a place where we spend a lot of time trying to innovate with our customers. We try to help them extend their assets, the life of their assets, for as long as possible. And then as they come up with plans and start to modernize the assets that they have, we support them in that journey as well.
Okay. No, I think that's good. Gosh, gets my brain like running 100 miles a minute, because you think about, we have people all over the company who aren't in a technology or an IT maybe arena. We do a lot of like really blue collar work. How do we encourage, regardless of the employee or the supervisor or the manager, this company or any other, how do we encourage them to think innovatively? Because a lot of people think innovation has to be this gigantic monumental thing.
Sure. I'll tell you, the thing that is so impressive to me is that nobody on our team, anywhere that I go, and I travel quite a bit, my family would say too much, nobody is waiting for guidance on how to be innovative. And I think the truth is, when you're highly skilled at the thing that you're doing and you're a master of your craft, whatever your craft is, you're always thinking about better ways to do it, right? So I also think that personal life experience of innovation with the phone that you hold or other technology you come into contact with, that bumps up against the way people think about their jobs all the time. So I think the good news is, my experience is we're spending more time trying to prioritize our investment decisions and line these things up with a roadmap so that things happen at a predictable time than nudging people to be innovative. So, like most large companies and exactly like our customers, we're going through that same prioritization exercise, right? So the issue is less, how could we be doing this? What's the coolest way to do this? What's the easiest way to do this? And it's more about, how do we make the transformation and prioritize which things we want to improve in which order, right? So where will we get the biggest bang for our buck? Where will we either identify ways to give people time back in their life? That's the prioritization exercise, and that's difficult because there won't be a shortage of cool ideas or interesting things. It's always a matter of, which things do you do first? What's the 1 to N prioritization scheme? And how do you set it up so that your customer gets the most value?
I like that idea, because sometimes we can find ourselves marred down in so many great ideas that you're not focusing your attention. I like to say that we're paying minimum balances everywhere and making no principal payment on anything, because, you want so badly to innovate that you're spreading yourself thin. Yeah, no, I love it. So if I talked to Steve Shapiro a couple episodes ago, and we talked about driving change because, undergoing the merger, there's a lot of change happening. And so some people think, I can't take even one more drop of change. Where, we talked about continuing to drive change so that we are competitive makes good sense, not change for the sake of change. And while change and innovation aren't necessarily synonymous, sometimes those do bleed together. How would you suggest formal leaders, informal leaders help their folks feel the necessity for innovation and change without like the strain that comes with it? Is there a way for that to be fun? Is there a way for that to be interesting?
Is there a way for that to be fun? I don't know if fun is the right adjective, but I do think all of the change that you implement has to involve some empathy, some human empathy. And I think where I see change happening successfully inside our organization, it starts with people understanding the subsection of the either team or organization or business that they're working with, really understanding them and understanding all the other things that are happening to them. So if you do that, then you can make more thoughtful plans. You create more effective collaboration and communication as you hit things that you didn't expect, because all change and innovation comes with some unintended consequences. You think you can plan it all out, and I know we spend a lot of time and energy doing our best at that, but we learn things, right? So sometimes, you have a great plan and you get into the middle of it and realize there are 50 things that have popped up, and you need to pause and pivot and, try something else. So I guess what I would say is the only thing that I've seen work effectively is starting with empathy. So I know that's not a very super technical thing to say.
No, I think it's great because one of the things that you had mentioned before that is celebrating when people have accomplished a thing or been with a company for X amount of time. And I think, there's a lot to be said for people who live in the world of contingent reward or people who live in the world of verbal acknowledgement even. But thank yous and celebrations, I mean, even in little bits can help people continue to think that it's okay to think differently or bigger.
Well, I lead a team of engineers and technical folks, and they love to solve problems. They love to fix things. They love to build things. And when they do that, they're ready to move on to the next problem. And so it's not necessarily in all of their nature to take a bow, but I think that's an important part of the process. And if they don't want to take a bow, I certainly want our customers to take a bow. So I nudge us to kind of pause in those moments and celebrate the success because I do think it's important. And I think, in the same way that you track your progress whenever you're trying to achieve something big, some part of it is hitting a milestone and acknowledging that. So I try to slow us down a little bit, right? Because everybody wants to charge on to the next thing. I try to slow us down a little bit and give people a reason to pause and celebrate. Because if you think that you're in a tunnel of challenge and you never see the light at the end, it's harder to keep going. But the truth is there's light all the way through that tunnel, right? So giving ourselves an opportunity to celebrate is really important.
Oh my gosh, I love to hear you say it. So my daughter, she got her associate degree, and she didn't want anybody to come out because she was like, it's just an associate degree. And I was like, what? And then she just literally graduated with her bachelor's degree, and she again was like, well, it's not a big deal until I get my master's degree. You guys don't worry about it. And I was like, what in the world is happening, and what's the world that we live in that we're downplaying these, even if it is a little thing, but this is not a little thing, that we don't at least celebrate all the hard work you've put into it thus far, right? And so I like the idea that you're talking about celebrating people's successes, because I do think that is encouraging, even if sometimes we won't admit it, because there's a lot of people that, it's embarrassing, or you want to be humble about a thing, or don't make it about me, let's keep going. I think it's important that we recognize those successes.
Well, I'm also a person who prefers to be in the back of the house rather than the front of the house. But I think that if you tell yourself, even while you're celebrating, that it isn't about you, then you give other people a better reason to show up. So I think it's important. And I think, congratulations to you for your daughter. I think that's incredible. And I'm proud of her. I don't even know. I think that's incredible, right? Those are the kinds of things that we should celebrate.
Yes. No, and I often talk about Sean Aker. I think he's a ton of fun. I found him first on TED Talks, but he talks about how we constantly move the goalpost on success. If I get a good job, then I'll be happy. You get a good job, and the first thing you say is, well, now I need a better job.
Sure.
And I've started to see that a lot in the world and in general. It's like you give yourself a goal, you reach that goal, and before you even celebrate it, you've put another goal out in front of you. And so how do we keep from getting that way when it comes to being innovative or bringing things to our customer? How do we not get there and automatically think, well, now we need the next best thing? How can we celebrate that thing even with our customer and then maybe even improve upon that thing instead of constantly feeling like it's got to be the next best?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the other thing that I'm about to say is going to sound like I'm disagreeing with myself 5 minutes ago. But I also think that the work is a reward in and of itself, right? So if you're only doing something to achieve a goal, then of course you're going to move the goalpost as soon as you get there. So it's important to have both a combination of outcome-driven goals as well as process goals. So I like to stay focused on outcomes, but that does lead you to moving the goalposts, right? And sometimes it's good for the goalposts to move. But if you're constantly chasing goalposts and you never feel the moment of joy and celebration, that can demotivate people over the long haul. And I think we're in a marathon with our customers. We are not in a sprint. And so you have to stay focused on both outcome-oriented activities as well as process-oriented activities. So it's gonna sound like the least management-y or innovative thing ever to say, but the path is also the way, right? Being in the moment is also the joy of doing the work.
So what was a time when maybe you felt, or you look back now and think that maybe you just kind of drove on through instead of celebrating a success for you? Because people model your optic. They'll watch you, they'll mimic you. Often people will grow up and think, well, that's what right looks like, I'm going to do that. And so have you moved a goalpost maybe too soon without demonstrating a celebration?
Well, I definitely had the moment that you're describing when I first became an executive. So I was at IBM before I joined V2X. And when I became a partner at IBM, it was my 20-year career aspiration. It was a big deal in my mind. And then I got there and I was like, well, this is actually not that different from 10 seconds ago when I was an associate partner. And I had a moment of, well, what's my new goalpost? And that's mentally good for me because, like I said, I have to be balanced across outcomes and process objectives. But I also think I probably did not celebrate enough. And simultaneously, I had a very challenging customer experience where we were helping them with a very large integration. And we did not take enough bows. We did not encourage them to pause and celebrate milestones and successes. And it drove a culture in their organization of firefighting, where people show up and they're there to fix urgent problems and deal with chaos. And what that leads to is a culture where everybody either creates chaos or fixes chaos. And I find that is difficult to scale, right? That will inhibit an organization's growth. So as I think about our team, our advanced technology team and our broader V2X community and all the customers we support, they're going through some combination of making things sustainable and dealing with the kind of chaos that shows up in everybody's mailbox or on your phone or in your VTC every day. And I think it's important to be able to, not encourage so much firefighting. You have to get out of firefighting mode. If you're in firefighting mode for things that you could do as a normal set of your operations, then you've kind of missed the boat, right? You've missed an opportunity. And you're deploying some of your best people and their energies in places where they could probably be better used elsewhere.
I think that's a smart thought process. How do we keep people from looking at some of the folks that work with them and say, well, if I let them slow down to celebrate, then they'll sit down and stop. Like I need to keep them going. It's almost like, if you rest, you'll feel the exhaustion. Do you find there's truth in that? Do you find that, some leaders drive because they think, man, their folks are so tired that if they don't keep driving them forward, that they'll sense the exhaustion and sit down?
I don't see that inside of our team. I think we're more focused on the way our customers' environment is changing and evolving rapidly. And frankly, we're not the only large company helping our customers through these transitions. So of course we face competitive pressure. So I think those things are motivators more than a fear that people are going to pause too long or take too much vacation. Like I actually think part of my job is to take my vacation days and encourage my team to take their vacation and, sleep at night when they can, right?
Novel idea.
I'm lucky, though, that I trust the team of people that we've got. So we've got an incredible team. And the last thing they need is, for me to be, while they're on this marathon journey for me to be, screaming from the sidelines, right, that they're not running fast enough. That's not really that helpful.
That's right. That's right. So as we're talking about, bringing the innovation to our customer, we're talking about thinking forward, celebrating our success as we roll. How, when we're getting into this not chase every good idea and wear ourselves out mindset, do we make sure we're hearing all the voices in the room when we're in the brainstorming phase? How do we do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I spend a lot of energy and effort making sure that we have a diverse group of folks to listen to. So that for me is kind of thing number one. Or I force us to look around and ask ourselves around the table, do we have a diverse group of people? And I really mean diversity both from a traditional DEI perspective, which is really important, but also do we have only executives? Do we have only people with a specific technical background? Or are we listening to the eventual users of whatever we're trying to do? Are we engaged with that community as well? Because good ideas, especially at the earliest phase, can get shouted down by people who are used to things being the way that they are, right? And if you're trying to come up with something new, sometimes the people who built it know a better way and for whatever reason couldn't do it. So you can't ignore their perspective either. But I think starting with, do we have the right folks at the table is really an important piece. And then I think the other thing that I really try to listen to or seek out the people who are the quietest. So I've often been the person at the table who got the least amount of airtime, right? So sometimes other people are louder or, use all the words, all the possible words that they have, every single word. And I am usually typically a short sentence person, right? And I'll speak up only when I feel like my point hasn't been made already. So I really try to pull from everybody who's been silent as well, because they often have great ideas and are just either feeling shouted down or for whatever reason not getting their point across or not getting the airtime that they need.
I love that. I used to work for a commander that did something similar. He always wanted to hear the dissenting opinion or the devil's advocate. Like, tell me some of your thoughts as to why that wouldn't work or who we wouldn't be thinking about. And so I love the idea that you're sort of pulling out of people that might otherwise sit quietly because they don't know they have a good idea or they don't know how to present that good idea.
There's someone on my team today who is a wild duck and probably my most trusted technical leader. I've been in the trenches with this person many times, and I know that even when we disagree, and especially when we disagree, we'll get to the right answer at the end of the day, and we trust each other. So I seek out that diversity of opinion, even when he tells me I'm wrong, and he tells me that almost all the time. And usually the truth is he's correct. So I think especially if you drink your own Kool-Aid and you think you're right all the time, then you're going to lock hands with a bunch of people and leap off a cliff. I don't want to do that. I really don't. And so I need people who can be honest with me and tell me that I'm wrong, and I'm wrong plenty. So that's actually not that hard to find. But you have to force yourself to listen to that because it's uncomfortable and no one wants to hear that they made a giant mistake, but you have to.
Well, and you have to love the people that care enough about you to bring you back in off the ledge. Because those people that, they just acquiesce to everything you say, they're going to help lead you into the lion's den,
Sure. Or they won't trust you enough and you won't have trusted them enough to tell you, hey, there's a lion over there, don't go in there.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So I want all the people who are going to help us make good decisions. But I think you were also asking about prioritization. So I think the other way that we acknowledge that we can't chase every idea is, good ideas are not a challenge in the tech space, right? I bet you, even though you're, learning about us and are relatively new in our organization, I bet you also feel like you've got 50 ideas about how we could do things better. Right? So the challenge is less about a good idea. It's more about finding the right business model where you can make it successful or fitting it into existing plans. And so I think for me, the thing that I try to think about with the team is how and when can we do this thing, right? And how does this idea compare to all the other ideas that we have in our kind of roadmap and plans? So the more you spend time helping people understand that there really is a roadmap, there really is a plan out there, not only are you going to do better getting people engaged and stay engaged with you while you go through the pain of that innovation, but you also get to hear from the voices who say, you forgot to connect this benefit that really matters. Or, you know what, that thing that I told you was really important, I don't really need that right away. Put this other thing first. So you can't chase every good idea, and I think you've got to connect it to some sort of time horizon. And I think that gives people a reason to show up and understand that, you're doing the best you can with your resources, or to show up and say, hey, you gotta readjust or reprioritize here.
I love that. Like, I know that if you were to look, directly into a microscope, how small it is. But if you back up, as the Air Force used to say, the 30,000-foot view and look at the entire scope, how different that would be. And so for you to say, like, that is an amazing idea, but maybe that doesn't work here and in this time frame, but it might be something that works over there or in that time frame. Sure. And I think that that's just a bigger idea of collaboration. Like, you're not focused only on what's good for you and your team. And I love that.
Yeah. But I don't think the problem is a shortage of ideas. Mm-hmm. I think the problem is always, none of us have figured out how to create more hours in the day, right? So we're all dealing with the same 24-hour day. And as I look at other leaders I'd like to emulate, the thing I wonder about is how are they using their 24 hours, right? How are they squeezing the right amount of things out of their 24 hours? How much vacation are they taking? And, I think that's the other piece that you have to think about with innovation. No matter how hard people are working and what kind of sacrifices they make, we all only have 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think it's worth mentioning that you've stated it twice now, taking your vacation. Yeah. And take your vacation, because at the end of the day, Stephen Covey, who I'm a huge fan of, and I do deliver some of his content to our people, is, or Franklin Covey, is that you've got to stop and sharpen the saw, which is what vacation will allow you to do. And it will also maintain the relationships with your family, so that at the end of the day, all the work that you're doing is for something, which is, you taking care of you and your family.
Well, some of the most innovative things that happen in the world happen because somebody sees something that's completely disconnected from the thing that they focus on, and they make a connection that didn't otherwise exist. So, bringing music to technology, or, making a connection between something that may not be relevant with our customer segment and something that I'm personally interested in, is where, a new idea or a new way of thinking about something may come from. So you don't have those moments if you're, continuing to stay focused on your day job every single day of the year. So I think that matters. I think you have to refresh yourself. I think that's part of where you get great ideas from. I know my boss, the hardest moment for me is when he goes on vacation, because I know he comes back with 7,000 great ideas. So, he doesn't stop thinking, and I think pauses in his day-to-day work life just fuel more innovative ideas. Mm-hmm. So I encourage people, if you feel burned out, and enjoy a moment of pause, and then, see what happens.
You reminded me, Hedy Lamarr, famous actress back in the 40s, that came up with what we know today as like our cell phone, all the stuff that manages our cell phones. Yes, based on that interruption that she would, recognize from music, being able to change a musical tone on a piano, for example, and how could they do that with the signals on torpedoes. So thinking outside the box, but trying to make it a thing that's here, make a difference over here where the two were otherwise never related.
It's also why you need different people in a room, mm-hmm. right? If you're going to talk about these things, you need people who have different kinds of backgrounds. If everyone looks exactly the same, you're going to get pretty similar answers.
That's right. This was so good. It was such a good conversation. I've really enjoyed having you on. We've gotten all the way through with bringing innovation to our customer. Unless there's something specific you want to add for the rest of today.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this was good. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back as we continue to talk to Cori Minton-Package on our next episode. Please subscribe to Converging on Leadership on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Find us on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/company/V2X-Inc. And please let us know what you think of our show and what future topics you'd like us to cover. Converging on Leadership is produced by kglobal and brought to you by V2X. V2X transforms operations and sustainment for government and commercial clients worldwide through operational support services, training, and converged environments that integrate physical and digital infrastructures. Learn more at gov2x.com. And until next week, I'm Hope Skibitsky, and thanks for listening.